Order the Planning Commission Board of Zoning Appeals for June 18th, 2019. Roll call, please. Starting on my left.
Brian Davidson.
Alex Zarchin. Gary Israel.
Bill Schnauber.
Eric Peterson.
Item number 3, approval of the minutes from the May 21st, 2019 meeting. Any comments from that gentleman?
No. Mr. Chairman, I, Gary Israel, make a motion that we approve the minutes of the May 21st, 2019 Planning Commission meeting.
I have a motion to approve.
I, Alex Zarchin, make a motion to, or second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. Communications Committee and Staff report. Les, anything on that?
No, you have the minutes there of the subdivision committee for a couple of the cases tonight.
Okay. Potential residential development report. I'm sure this weather's not helping our causes.
Let's say we have housing starts, not necessarily housing finishes.
Finishes? Yeah. Okay. If nothing, we'll move on. All right. Item number 5, case Z 2019-06, public hearing and recommendation on the proposed amendment to the Tuscany Planned Unit Development District and Plan located west of South Andover Road and north of Southwest 120th Street, Andover, Kansas. The proposed amendment generally complies with the comprehensive plan objectives. However, the surrounding properties feel that a screening, buffer fence, or wall is appropriate to separate the change. We are going to welcome the public in a minute here for their input. I'd like to lay out a few ground rules, though, okay, before we start that. It's important that you present any facts or views you have as evidence so that an informed recommendation can be made by the Planning Commission to the governing body for their final decision. By state statute, the governing body does not have to hold another public hearing on the matter, although they may listen to whomever they wish. You will be asked if there is any new information which was not heard at this hearing. It is to everyone's advantage if you present all the necessary information at this hearing. After the city zoning administrator provides the commission with background information, I will call upon the applicant. Public comments will be heard following the applicant. Once all have been heard, the applicant will have an opportunity for final comments. The Planning Commission will then close the hearing to public comments and will then consider the 14 factors on which to base their recommendation. During this time, the Commission may direct questions to the applicant, the public, and/or city staff. You should be aware that the Planning Commission can recommend that the site be platted or replatted if necessary, and that a site plan may be required for approval. You should be aware that any uses permitted outright in a district by the regulations can receive a zoning permit. Furthermore, if the applicant chooses to describe various features of their development plans, the city can only enforce those provisions which are covered in zoning and other city codes. Anyone wishing to speak must be recognized by the chairperson and give their name and address. Please use the podium and speak clearly so that your comments can be recorded for inclusion into our minutes. Okay, that being said, do we have any disqualification declared?
No.
No.
All right. Official notice for this hearing was published in the Butler County Times-Gazette on May 25th, 2019, and notices were mailed to the applicant and 92 real property owners of record in the area of notification on May 21st, 2019. The record shows that at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication and mailing dates and the hearing date. Unless there is evidence to the contrary from anyone present, I will declare that proper notification has been given. Although we do not encourage such communications, I will ask the Commission if any of them have received any ex parte verbal or written communications prior to this hearing, which they should like to share. Gentlemen?
No.
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 Okay. I will now call on the zoning administrator, Leslie Mangus, if he has any additional information or new information.
As I provided in the rezoning report, this Tuscany PUD has been around since, I think, 1997. It's had a couple of amendments, one that rearranged some parcel boundaries for commercial properties and multifamily properties adjacent to the east of the subject tonight, and others within the single-family residential parcels 1 and 2. The proposed amendment tonight is to amend the boundary of the multifamily. You can see up there on the screen labeled MF1 to include an area in parcel 2 of the single family on the western side of the planned unit development. I've had several calls about this. Some emails that all were opposed to the lack of a screening wall. As those of you who were on the subdivision committee know, the developer had shown an entrance to a lot directly to 120th Street. Many were opposed to that. And then there's just the general sentiment that there should be some sort of a screening or buffering between multifamily and single family.
Okay. Any questions for City?
No, not at this time.
If not, then at this time, I would ask if there are any members of the public who would like to speak on this case. Please raise your hand.
Do you want the
All right.
applicant?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Applicant.
I jumped the gun here. I'm sorry. Yes, come ahead. This is the applicant.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Will Clevenger with Garver, here on behalf of the applicant. This zone change is part of a replat that we're currently working on, and something that will be done in the same time. And as Les mentioned, this property has been vacant for quite some time, so this would be something that we think would be good for keeping the property developed or getting the property developed. We think that this would be an ideal choice for this location, being that it's right next to the multifamily there to the east, and it's just a good little spot where we can keep that cul-de-sac isolated from the rest of the development there. And the developer does want to go ahead and screen the multifamily from the single-family property there to the west and also to the north. And we just think that would help minimize the traffic impacts there for the subdivision. And I know there's several other people here that like to speak, so I'd like to go ahead and give them a chance to talk and then have a chance to answer questions after, and answer any questions you may have.
Do you have any now, or?
I mean, I do have a question, but I'll go ahead and wait.
Okay.
And we'll go with the
All right.
public comments.
Thank you. Now, anyone from the public on this case? Gentleman here in the white shirt or off?
My name is James Woolley. I live at 819 West Verona Court, 670027580. My concern is that at one point we had a document which was called the covenants. Am I speaking loudly enough here?
You're fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
And in those covenants, several things were stated that, in fact, over the years have not turned out to be true. One of them is this parcel. And on the original document, which was signed by Lynn Marlette, who was the previous declarant, if you will, stated that the properties would be divided in such a way that there would be no parcel 6 to begin with. The other question I had in mind is the fact that in the covenants, if we are to assume they're still inviolate, there is a section, recital C, which states that those homes in that addendum would be single-family homes. That's stated in the document. There is another point made in section 6.09, which talks about a turnover of the HOA responsibilities to our HOA, of whom I am not a part of. And that particular turnover implies that the HOA president or whatever should be in charge of HOA enforcement of the covenants. That's all I really have to say. Is it seems to me if the covenants are in fact true and in fact we can utilize that, then there is no reason to have this particular comment. That's all I have to say, folks. Unless there's a question or something, I'm more than happy to sit down and shut up.
Questions from the applicant?
Is there a current HOA? Do you know
Yes,
who
there is. And in fact, my understanding, and this may not be true, my understanding is that the DRC, the committee which takes care of the community, has turned over the responsibilities of the HOA to our group. We're paying for insurance, mowing, maintenance, whatever is required of that property and its commons. So at this point, I understand we have the right to enforce the covenants, which have not, up to this point, been inviolate.
Any other questions?
No.
I'm out of here.
Thank you.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks.
I appreciate your effort.
Okay. Anyone else at this time? Please, come up.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott Kubik. I reside at 825 West Verona. Currently, I am the president of the HOA of Winchester, and I got two other of my board members here today. Recently, within the last week, we held a public meeting. The main consensus of the neighborhood was they were worried about the home value, the values actually dropping, if not now, then in the future, due to the duplexes. I have a personal story I'd like to share with you. My dad actually lives in a duplex right now. He rents it out from my aunt, and the owners were actually living in another country. The people that were renting it out left. They had their electricity turned off. It was in the middle of the winter, and the pipes broke, and my dad's basement was flooded with about 6 inches of water. Value damage is about $5,000. He didn't realize that he needed renter's insurance, and he was just basically out the money because we couldn't get a hold of the owners. Can I ask some questions while I'm up here? And I know Gene's not here, right?
I'm sorry?
Can I ask some questions? Because I don't
Of
fully
the
have
applicant?
clarity on this yet.
Yes.
Okay. So,
Well, if you would state your questions, and then the applicant, when he has an opportunity to come back, he can answer them at
okay.
that time.
So question one is, there was a extra lot on parcel 6 that was going to have an entryway off of Pawnee. There was a lot of concern about that extra entryway being added, so I'm not sure what was the outcome of that. I know, Les, you had talked about that was going to be possibly amended. Also, in the original plans, I was under the impression there was going to be a pool and playground in parcel 6. And I had some concerns about that. And I've reached out to Gene myself, and I gave him a copy of our covenants. He was supposed to read them and get back with me, and he just hadn't had a chance yet. But I was curious if he was going to try to join with our HOA or Tuscany's. I know the president of Tuscany's here as well, their HOA. So my concerns were having a pool so close to the duplexes due to over time, if it gets rented out, it just wouldn't be taken care of like it needs to be. In addition to that, I don't know how that little area in parcel 6 can handle a pool and keep it maintained without the area of the HOA between Tuscany and Winchester. So that was a concern of mine as well. Some of the other residents of Winchester had concerns about traffic, extra traffic with kids being picked up on Pawnee. Another question I had was, will the road between Tuscany and Winchester be connected? And I heard some rumors that, I don't know if the city was going to pay for that possibly Gene would have to pay for that if he wanted him connected himself. And I'm going to touch on a little point that Jim made, which was in our covenants, it does state that it's meant for single-family homes. And a little addition to that is we moved into the neighborhood with a condition and the overall understanding that we were going to be moving in beside single-family homes, and we weren't aware that could even happen at that time. And I'd also spoken to Gene. I know this is not pertaining to parcel 6, this is pertaining to parcel 2 on the north side. Gene had also mentioned that he was wanting to build some homes in there between like 250 and 320. And if you look at the appreciation and kind of the houses that are being built in there now and the values, I was wondering if we could partner with Gene possibly and try to get that raised to maybe like 280 to 350. And ask what we need to do to the entryway or the commons to increase the value so he would feel comfortable selling a house at that value. And the last thing I have a question on is, you talked about building a divider or a wall between parcel 2 and parcel 6. I just have some questions to what the material might be for that type of structure. And that's all I got. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Anyone else from the audience? Please come up.
My name is Dan Gray. I live at 2340 South McKenzie Court there in Winchester Estates. I actually live directly west of where the potential parcel 6 is going to be at. One of my concerns, and I didn't even know about this, was about a screening wall and stuff of that nature. I personally don't think a screening wall is going to be high enough for that division between my property and the potential multifamily property to keep that separation of privacy. As you know, anybody that lives next to a multifamily unit, traffic does increase. There's a lot more openness around that area just because of the amount of families and couples that could be living there as well. The other thing that I'm concerned about is also with today, rainwater runoff. The correct nature of drainage that's going to be coming out from those potential parcels as well too. Because right now I back up to 120th or Pawnee as well. The drainage is adequate for now. We don't get these rains all the time, thank God. But in the future, anything like this, is there going to be enough storm drainage runoff to handle the extra runnage from the asphalt, paving, housing, and future notices from there as well too. That's what I have.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Steve Edwards. I live at 2310 South McKenzie Court. I too back up to close to parcel 6. I'm at the corner of McKenzie and I think Vintage. Been there about 10 years. Two of my concerns. One is the wall, the screening wall. I've just learned of that today. And if there was a wall, I would think it should match the wall, the full brick wall we have in place now, and not come up with a second material. That's one. Two is that pond, the large pond to the north side of the property, in my understanding was a FEMA created pond from earlier flooding. And there's an intake grate on the east side of that pond that nobody in the city, nobody in the neighborhood, nobody maintains that intake grate that feeds that pond. I have taken a machine several times over, cleared debris, cleared sediment out of that intake grate so that pond can breathe and take in water like it should. That grate picks water up from the east. There's a floodway from 120th north right up that property line between parcel 1 parcel 2, and it intersects parcel 6. A high volume of water will run through that ditch, and to create a neighborhood in there, you would think there would have to be some kind of floodplain plan through that ditch. It's full of trees and debris. There's an old road that would go from our neighborhood to Tuscany that will back up several feet of water, back up almost to the corner of parcel 6. I've seen standing water through there. So to go in and throw a neighborhood in, you're going to throw all kind of water through there. So that's a pretty big concern that I don't see anything on the plan that looks like there's any kind of flood work or drainage work through there. The maintenance of that pond, building up against that pond, that intake grate, it blows my mind that nobody has ever touched it. I've never seen a city truck, county truck, nobody back there with that grate. And if I wouldn't have cleaned it, I watched that pond fill up about a week after I cleaned it one time. So those are my two concerns. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, in the back.
Hello. My name is Jason Virgilio, and I live at 2219 South Glenhurst Court in Tuscany Edition. I back up, I'm the most west side of parcel 1 there, close to the southwest part of that, and I just want to echo all their water concerns. I've seen, especially over the last few months with our record rains, water come all the way up to the edge of my property and actually leave flotsam on my fence. So I believe if you're going to put duplexes in there, you're going to double the amount of cement down driveways, more house area, more roofs, more sump pumps pumping water out there. I believe there would be a clear and present danger of water flooding both existing homes in Tuscany 1 and any new development in parcel 2 or 6 on the eastern edge of those, if some measures aren't taken to make sure that water, it flows from south to north, that water leaves parcel 6, hits the output from the retention ponds, and then goes north to the south wind pond or lake, whatever that's called up there. So there's a danger that new developments could end up being underwater while they're even being built. So that's something definitely to consider. I've also been concerned about the fact in Tuscany 1 we have covenants that specify a limited amount of rentals in our single-family addition, and now with the advent of this, I guess because it's being parceled off as a separate parcel, they can get around the Winchester Estates Homeowner Association, which I'm sure probably has something similar of a limiting number of rentals in their addition. So one more concern about prospective renters and lowered home values. I also had a question of the applicant, I guess, about notifying Flint Hills, since they're a catty corner from these additions here. Their traffic will increase as well. They might be affected. I was curious why they were not informed of this zoning change or zoning request. And I think they have a vested interest in being informed of this, and apparently I don't see anybody from that addition here, so I think they have a vested interest, but they weren't informed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that has a new point to add to this? Thank you.
My name is Tom Mack. I live at 4104 Plum Tree in Wichita, 67226, but I'm the president of Devlin Enterprises, and even though we're the developer of Flint Hills, so the question regarding why we're in, I can't answer that question, but I can tell we also own Devlin Financial Inc., a sister company, owns parcels 5 and 4 adjacent to parcel 6. And just want to point out, when we acquired parcel 4, we tried to acquire would be the southwest corner of parcel 4, southeast corner of parcel 6, but we were told it was reserved, would always be a reserve for drainage purposes, and we couldn't acquire it at that time. So when I first saw the plan for the duplexes here, we had a lot in that reserve, which is a little concerning for me because that's land that we had hoped to acquire back in 2002. I can tell you, I understand the concerns of all the homeowners, and I agree with those concerns. I would have those same concerns if I was a homeowner as well. Someone may point out that parcel 4 is zoned for multifamily already, and that is true. The difference, in my opinion, would be that parcel 4 was zoned that way back in 2002, or prior to that, probably in the late 90s when this PUD was recorded, so all these homeowners knew that that zoning was in place. It's parcel 6 that was zoned single family, and so that's the change there. And finally, I can tell you we bought parcels 5 and parcel 4 as a buffer for Flint Hills National. We have no plans for the development of that at this point in time. Doesn't mean it won't ever be developed, but we have no plans, and for the time being, it will just remain as buffer. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. Jason Sullivan. I live at 312 West Tuscany in the Tuscany neighborhood. Kind of on a different track here just a little bit. Part of the reason when we relocated here 4 years ago, part of the reason we purchased in Tuscany, single traffic, one way in, one way out. I come home 3 to 4 nights a week with 15 to 20 kids playing soccer in the front yard. We'd love to get them in the backyard, but they just don't get there. So my concern is construction traffic. I would like the council to consider all construction traffic stay out of residential areas. I feel that they can enter through Pawnee, they can build their own egress. Construction drivers do not care. I get it. They get timelines, they get rushed. They're not watching for the 9-year-old that runs out between cars. I think this has to be addressed. There's too many opportunities for our construction work. We just went through the remodel out on Andover Road. There was multiple accidents during this construction. It's something to be dealt with. Every night I come home, drive through there. You bring your kids, they can pick up a soccer game very easily. But if that road is connected, I think it needs to be addressed that construction traffic does not go through the residential environment at all, in any way, shape, or form. That's really kind of all I had there.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, anyone else new?
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm Bill Blair, 2006 South Vintage Drive. We own the property right north of Parcel 2. We bought that property and built our home there when Parcel 2, Parcel 6 was all pasture. And I witnessed how slow that Winchester developed. And it was rough. And it's finally picked up. I just want to ask you guys to ask yourself, if you're a homeowner and you purchased a home in Winchester, believing that the whole development would be single-family homes, and now they're proposing for duplexes, how would that make you feel? That's where I stand with it all. I've developed, I've built duplexes. The buffering's not correct in my mind. We don't have anything buffering Winchester. Now, if Parcel 4 was for sale, then they may have the right then to put duplexes in. This is pre-platted. Unless somebody in the room can tell me that they knew when they purchased their home there that Parcel 6 was going to have duplexes, we may have an answer. But I don't know if anybody can answer that. That's where I stand with it. I just want you to ask yourself, if you lived in Winchester, would you be okay with it?
Thank you. All right, anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Joe Andrews. I live at 708 West Tuscany Drive in the Winchester addition. And I moved there 3 years ago, had a house built that really like, and I love the area living there, but I had no idea that there was any possibility of a area going in there close with duplexes, because although some renters are fine, other people that don't own the home and are just renting don't worry about taking care of it like somebody that buys a home, and that's my biggest worry. And I don't know what it will do to the values of the home. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I say something else?
Yes, sir, go ahead.
I've already stated my name. Is that okay?
Good. Please do it again, please.
I'm Steve Edwards, 2310 South McKenzie Court, Winchester. Something else about that small parcel, the Parcel 6 with the duplexes and a swimming pool. I'm in the swimming pool business. I see commercial swimming pools, HOA swimming pools all the time, and there's no way that a rental community is going to support a swimming pool in that area, that playground area. It's going to be a magnet for people that don't belong there. There's no way financially, I don't see how landlords are going to fund and maintain a swimming pool over time. I mean, you can't, Tuscany takes care of their little pool, and I bet they struggle doing that and keeping it squared away. So I just don't see how they're going to do it in a rental community. So, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name is Dustin Lewis. We are currently purchasing the property at 2242 South Vintage Drive. We started the process of purchasing the home end of April. We weren't aware of any of this. All we were told was this has been purchased, but it's going to be years before it's developed. And that's all our contractor knew. We have 4 kids coming into the area. I'm moving from West Wichita. My fiance's coming from Rose Hill. Really like the area, and now to see it develop this way, it's really unfortunate. But, you know, the biggest issue is the duplexes for us, what that does to an area. So just voicing that concern to kind of answer Bill Blair's, why people weren't notified of that, or when we were. So that was like, shoot, that's a month and a half ago. So yeah, we weren't notified, and our contractor had no idea. So just wanted to let you know. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Good evening. John Hutto, 622 West Tuscany Drive, Winchester. Really don't have a lot to add, but I did want to second a lot of the things that were said. The traffic on Pawnee with the new cul-de-sac, there's a lot of children that get on and off buses there at our corner. The 2 streets being connected from Tuscany to Winchester are concerns with the children playing in the yard, to second him. And not only just that, it does create a through traffic, just a concern there, and the water situation. I live right by the pond, and right now it's full, of course, but I would hate to see anything happen to make it go higher than it is right now, especially with the development of the parcel 6, because I know a lot of water does travel through there. And I think that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir, do you have something new to add to? Okay, thank you.
My name is Cale Robin. I live at 813 West Verona Court in the Winchester development, and I echo all those other things. I was just specifically curious if the new single-family homes or potentially the duplexes would qualify for the Andover Neighborhood Revitalization Plan, since that's in that area. So just a question to ask. Thanks.
Okay.
Actually, that area has been taken out now, so there's no tax rebate incentive at this point for any of those. Of course, if you're in it already, you're getting it, but come the new plan, we took Winchester out. All of you are getting it now, will continue to get it, but as of January 1, 2019, that area is no longer in that plan.
All right, then, anyone else? Okay, at this time, I'm going to ask the applicant to come back up.
Will Clevenger with Garver, here on behalf of the applicant. Would you like me to go ahead and see if I can answer a few of these questions before we start?
Please, go right ahead.
One of the questions was about the extra lot there at the southeast corner of parcel 6. And after we had comments received back from the city of Andover, we went ahead and deleted that lot from parcel 6. And now that is just the reserve, just for drainage purposes, screening, and a few other things I think that were listed on the plan. Not going to be a pool area. That my understanding is just the pool that's on parcel 4. We're not proposing one within this duplex zone change request area. Then there was a question about the road connection between parcel 1 and parcel 2. That road connection was actually already platted with the previous plat, so we're just keeping that as it was pretty much already shown and having that connection there. So that is going to be the same part of the platting process. Then there was also a question about stormwater runoff and the channel there that's kind of running between parcel 4 and parcel 6. We've done a survey of that area, and we have a drainage engineer in our office who's working on a drainage plan to make sure that we do have no increased runoff from the new development, both single family and multifamily, to make sure that we're not increasing that flow and hopefully making things even better than they are today. There was a comment about maintenance of the ponds. Unfortunately, the pond and the reserves of those are not part of our ownership, so that is not something that we have the right to do any changes on or maintenance. But if at some point we are able to join the homeowners association or one of the two homeowners associations, then obviously then that would be something we could participate in. I believe our client has been in communications with them, but I don't know the result and how that's going to turn out. And I think that was it. Was there any other questions that I could answer from you?
Gentlemen on the board?
There's been some discussion, sorry, Eric.
I do think there was a question from the audience. I made a note about the material of the wall that was proposed between parcel 2 and 6.
Actually, not proposing a wall between parcel 2 and parcel 6. We're proposing a cedar wood fence. And then do some screening for like landscape screening along Pawnee or 120th. And then I think there was also a question about how much the homes were going to be costing. The multifamily area is going to be in the range of $325,000 per structure, and on average. And then on the single family area, I believe that was going to be in the $275,000 range per structure on average, and they were going to fluctuate a little bit.
Yeah, thank you.
Gary, you had a question?
Eric got my question. He beat me to it.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a question, sorry.
Yes, sir.
Just kind of, I'm just trying to figure out, you know, if you were looking at multifamily, I guess this has been a long time ago. I'm just trying to figure out parcel 4, you know, is already designated as multifamily, on why that wasn't ever, you know, taken advantage of as far as that lot. Now, then I did hear that Devlin purchased it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know the circumstances, if it was for sale or if that was even an option at the time, but our client does not own parcel 4.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Les? Does the city have any comments about any of the questions posed here?
Well, I've got quite a list of issues that were brought up. Many of those seem to revolve around homeowners associations, and as you all on the Planning Commission know, the city is not a part of homeowners associations. Those are a private covenant between landowners, so we really can't get into those issues about no rentals or house values or sharing of pools and maintenance and so forth.
Okay. Thank you. Were there any written communications received on this of any kind, public-wise, or?
No.
Gentlemen, anything else? If not, then I'm going to close the public portion of the hearing. There will be no further public comments unless the commission wishes to ask questions to clarify information. Planning Commission will now deliberate the request. There are 14 factors which we have to consider in order to make findings and ultimately a recommendation. And
You got them?
I don't think I did. You're there? Okay.
Yeah.
Someone want to read those? Yeah.
Yeah, you can use mine. That's fine.
I can go ahead and read those.
Thank you, Alex.
All right. Number 1, do adequate sewage disposal and water supply and all other necessary public facilities, including street access, exist, or can they be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on the subject property if the change in zoning were approved? Staff, all are in the area and could feasibly be extended. Access control is proposed to limit access to Southwest 120th Street to one location.
Concur.
Concur. Number 2, if the zoning change request was approved, would the subject property need to be platted or replatted or have in lieu of dedications made in order to provide needed rights-of-way, easements, building setback lines, or access control? Staff, platting would be required.
Concur.
Number 3, if the zoning change request was approved, would the subject property need a screening plan for existing or potential uses? Staff, the Winchester final PUD adjacent and the original Tuscany PUD provide for a wall for separation along Southwest 120th Street.
Okay, that's just along Southwest 120th Street, correct? Doesn't say anything about going up into parcel 6.
No, because the original PUD didn't contemplate this parcel 6. It was all a part of parcel 2.
Okay. Now is that wall that wall does not fully extend.
There is a wall in place today along parcel 2 up to the proposed boundary of parcel 6.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Number 4, what fact-based information in support of or in opposition to the requested zoning change has staff received? Staff, adjacent landowners oppose the conversion of the property to accommodate two-family dwelling, particularly without some sort of separation wall or fence along Southwest 120th and around the perimeter where adjacent to single-family lots.
Concur.
Concur. Number 5, if there's been an error in the application of these zoning regulations to the subject property, would the requested zoning change correct the error? Staff, no errors known to exist.
Concur.
Number 6, how suitable or unsuitable is the subject property for its current zoning? Staff, the property is suitable for its current zoning, and that's when we're referring to single family. Concur.
Concur.
Yeah.
Is the length of time the subject property has been vacant or undeveloped under its current zoning a factor in the zoning change request? Staff, yes. The subject property has been available for single-family residential development since 1997.
Concur.
Number 8, how reasonably well-suited will the requested zoning change of the subject property be with the current zoning of nearby properties? Staff, the conversion of the land use from single-family residential to two-family residential within a developed subdivision is a controversial matter that is oftentimes accommodated by the provision of adequate screening and buffering. I concur. Number 9, has the zoning change been requested because conditions in the area of the subject property have changed or are changing? If so, what is the nature and significance of these conditions? Staff, no changes in the conditions are known to exist other than the slowdown in single-family residential development.
Concur.
Number 10, what are the current land uses, character, and condition of the subject property and the surrounding neighborhood? To the west are recently developed single-family homes. To the south are large lot single-family homes. To the north is undeveloped single-family residential development property. To the east is undeveloped multifamily residential property. Concur. Number 11, would the proposed zoning change of the subject property allow land uses which might have detrimental effects on nearby properties, and if so, how? From staff, the proposed two-family residential development would have slightly higher density than what is currently allowed and is adjacent to the subject property. Concur. Number 12, how would the requested zoning change conform with the city's comprehensive plan and other adopted master plans and policies? Staff, the comprehensive plan supports modest increases in density and a variety of housing options. Concur. Number 13, do any professional persons knowledgeable in conditions that affect the zoning change request have information or recommendations to provide which would be helpful in its evaluation? Staff. Approval conditioned on the requirement of a screening wall similar to the Winchester wall to be constructed along Southwest 120th Street and a solid privacy fence between parcel 2 and parcel 6.
Concur.
Concur. And number 14, how would the potential loss in value or hardship imposed on the applicant compare to the relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare if there is a change from the current zone to the requested zone? Staff, with adequate screening and buffering, the public health, safety, and welfare are protected with minimal hardship to the applicant.
Concur. Concur.
Concur.
Thank you.
Can I follow up, Les, with a question for you? Have we had any PUDs similar to this where they have taken out a parcel and then converted it over to a multifamily?
Absolutely. This has come up many times, and as I stated, it's always controversial where there is a plan in place that's modified to add multifamily into the plan.
Okay.
Gentlemen?
I do have a question for the applicant. So just so we're all familiar with this, this is a new owner of parcel 6, correct?
Yes.
And has he looked at tying in with single-family homes to the existing parcel 2?
Actually, the remainder of parcel 2 that's not currently developed is part of the plat that we're proposing, and the rest of that is going to be all single-family, which would be to the northerly end, north of the ponds, and also to the southeast of one of the ponds, adjacent to parcel 1.
Gary, if you could look up there at the screen, I can kind of maybe use this laser. Can't get this. Okay. The applicant owns a property something like this around the existing developed boundary of the Winchester Estates, and the multifamily is this area.
Uh-huh. But the developer owns all that property?
Yes.
Okay. And right now, that's platted for single-family up in the northern portion?
Correct.
And to the east of the pond? Well...
Correct.
Yeah,
east and south.
Southeast of the pond.
They haven't applied for any change to that portion of their property.
Okay. But it would appear that nothing's really happening in that area right now, right?
You can see here, this is something like the boundary of the applicant's property that's undeveloped single family that he intends to leave as single family. It's just this parcel 6 that he's applied to change.
The plan are you matching the existing screen wall in front, across the front of your property?
At the moment, we hadn't proposed to do a screening wall along Southwest
Along
120th.
120th.
We were thinking of doing some landscaping for type of screening there along 120th, and then proposing a screening fence between parcel 2 and parcel 6, and adjacent to all of that single-family adjoining property.
And then where would that go along the northern end of parcel 6? So the screening would just
go up until we get to the empty lot number 5?
I can't see let's see, I have.
Sorry, I know that gets into a little bit of the detail there. On the,
Yes, that is correct. Parcel 5, I'm sorry, Lot 5.
Lot
That-
5.
Yes, where Parcel 6 abuts that on north line of Parcel 6. Yes, that'd be where the screening fence would also join up there.
and then the natural tree row would be the other buffer on the,
Right, but then, of course, that's also
On the east side.
currently multifamily, so they're like similar zonings.
right.
So we've got wood fencing here and here.
Yeah.
Any more questions for the applicant?
No? No?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion, gentlemen? All right then, having discussed and reached conclusions on our findings of fact, I would remind the commission that a proper motion should reflect the factors on which it is based. And if approval is recommended, then consideration should be given to any conditions that might be attached. Is there a motion to either recommend approval, modification and approval, disapproval, or to table the discussion?
And my question,
Oh,
I was just going to say, I mean, my statement, just a quick statement, is just, you know, how do we feel is the adequateness of, you know, cedar wood privacy fence, you know, buffering from the wall that exists, even though it is a short wall along 120th Street?
I don't like it.
Well, he's not having the cedar fence along 120th.
Right, no, but going off of,
Right, going north
going north off of what the existing,
in between 2 and 6. Yeah.
right, in between 2 and 6.
Are you looking for a motion either way, Mr. Chairperson?
So I've got one more question, I'm
Okay.
sorry. Just one last question. Sorry. And just trying to figure out all the different rules. Does this then go before the city council for final decision? Or is this,
This is a recommendation because it requires an ordinance to make these changes.
okay.
All right then,
Okay.
do I have a motion? State your name if...
Eric Peterson. Mr. Chairperson, having considered the evidence at the hearing and the factors to evaluate the application, I, Eric Peterson, move that we recommend to the governing body that case number Z2019-06 be disapproved to amend the Tuscany Addition preliminary planned unit development plan to create parcel 6, amend the existing parcel 2, and change the zoning of parcel 6 from the current SF2 single-family residential medium-density district to the MF1 single-family and two-family residential district based on the findings of the Planning Commission as recorded in the summary of this hearing.
I have a motion.
Mr. Chairman, can we note what conditions those are based on our facts and findings?
Yes.
And I am going to look for some help here.
Okay,
because I put myself in the position of the homeowners.
okay.
I put myself in the position of the expectations when I either bought the neighboring lots or I built or bought my home. I don't live here, I'm putting myself in that position. And the small parcel that's being proposed, and the understanding, the beliefs, and the expectations that I as a homeowner would have are where my findings and feelings are coming from. Gary, or Mr. Chairperson.
Mr. Chairman, can I give him some suggestions?
Please,
based
as a
on
newbie,
those?
please.
Based on number 4, 6, 8, 10, and 11.
Would you repeat those one more time, please?
4, 6, 8, 10, 11. And I think those would agree with what you're saying in favor of the current homeowners, and the fact that this has been a single-family, part of a single-family PUD in the past.
Thank you for the assistance. Thank you.
Does he need to restate the motion then, Les? Yes. Yeah.
Get comfortable. I'm glad to. Having considered the evidence at the hearing and the factors to evaluate the application, I, Eric Peterson, move that we recommend to the governing body that case number Z-2019-06 be disapproved to amend the Tuscany Addition Preliminary Planned Unit Development Plan to create parcel 6, amend the existing parcel 2, and change the zoning of parcel 6 from the current SF2 single-family residential medium-density district to the MF1 single-family and two-family residential district based on findings 4, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 11 of the Planning Commission as recorded in the summary of this hearing.
We have a motion,
Mr. Chairman, I, Gary Israel, would second the motion.
and we have a second. All those in favor of the disapproval, say aye.
Aye.
All those against? 0. Motion passes 5-0. Thank you for your participation.
Bill, you'll need to
I
read
need-
the closing remarks.
We have some conditions here. That all or a portion of such property to be platted or replatted and recorded with 1 year from the date of governing body approval, or the case be considered disapproved and closed.
Next page.
Yeah.
Just right here. Closing remarks.
This case will be forwarded to the governing body with the Planning Commission's recommendation and a written summary of the hearing for consideration at their regular meeting of July 9th, 2019. The recording of this hearing will be retained for at least 60 days after the final determination is completed on this case. Protest petitions against the case, but not directed at the Commission's recommendations as such, may be received by the city clerk for 14 days after tonight, July 3rd, 2019, at 4:30 p.m. If there are properly signed protest petitions with accurate legal descriptions from the owners of record of 20% or more of the total real property owners within the official area of notification, both inside and outside of the city, and not counting public street rights-of-way or specific statutorial excluded property, then such a change shall not be passed except by a 3/4 vote of all members of the City Council. We thank you for participation in this hearing. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of our meeting.
So I want to ask the zoning administrator, if the residents were wanting to petition, protest, not per se this, but to make sure that a 3/4 majority vote, which means 5 of 6 on the council, is assured. I mean, whatever happens, they would need to get a petition of 20% of the landowners in the notification area, correct?
Correct. A 20% petition would be required to force the supermajority vote by the city council.
So it doesn't matter.
Makes no difference whether it's to approve or disapprove
Right,
coming
or
from the
the
planning
council
commission.
sends it back. At some point, it'll have to be approved with 5 of 6 votes.
Correct.
So, I mean, you know, if you're interested in assuring, which does, nothing's assured, but if you want to force an extra hurdle, I guess is what I would say, to get 5 votes, then you should come up with a petition of 20% of the landowners, not just the people, the landowners, and submit it to the city clerk within 14 days. To have that option later. It's all at your option. You have to put it together yourself. The city can't prepare that for you. You need to prepare it and then submit it to us, to our city clerk within 14 days. And the council will consider that at the July 9th meeting. Yeah, okay.
We can provide that, yes.
Okay.
No, we can just wait till they exit the room. We have somebody else here. Thanks, Eric.
Thank you.
Okay. All set? Item number 6, case number SU 2019-02. Public hearing and recommendation on a special use application to allow a child care facility in the B5 Highway Corridor Mixed Use Business District on property generally located at 1216 East Highway 54 and 401 South McCandless Drive, Andover. The proposed special use generally complies with the land use proposed in the US 54-400 corridor study. Compliance with the corridor study building setback should be imposed to avoid further conflict with the implementation of the plan. Do we have any disqualifications from the commission members?
No.
No.
Official notice for this hearing on May 21st, 2019. The record shows that at least 20 days have elapsed between the publication and mailing dates and the hearing date.
I think the changes in the future for that freeway would need to comply with that plan in order to minimize the cost to the public in the future to buy right away.
So Les, if they were to do any kind of remodeling?
It would need to be in
Okay,
compliance.
so if they wanted to expand the facility, then that would...
Correct.
Okay.
Andover. So I currently have my property already out here in Andover for us to be able to do our existing business there. Only at the time when we purchased it, it was a single-family home that we ran a home daycare out of. We just didn't live there, which is why we had to have a special use permit. In 2015, we expanded and we built a second building next door to that. So right now, we currently serve 45 families that are all mostly from the Andover community. The goal, obviously, with this new property is to merge the 2 buildings into 1 building, so that way we can continue to serve the 45 families we have, make my life a little bit easier to where I'm not bouncing back and forth the 2 properties, and then also be able to accommodate more families in the area. I know that that is a huge need for Andover. I work very closely with my county surveyor at this point in time. There's definitely a shortage, both home side and center side, and I'm uniquely licensed both. So they obviously come to me for both aspects and what that could look like for the future. And this property came for sale, and we've lived out here since 2003, both again in Andover, so we're not too far from either property. It's literally a mile down the road from where we are now and 2 miles from where we live now. So it's just convenient for our family. It's convenient for the families that we have. A lot of my clients that have been in this area, I mean, I told them they can come tonight because obviously they want to see us grow. We have many families that are in the neighborhood itself that we're sent notifications to that are obviously for this plan as well. But I mean, we do have a lot of city or school officials that are on board with us. I've serviced 2 of the principals in the area with their families and kids. The Bank of America manager, she's had her family with me for 6 years. We've had school bus drivers with us that are here in the area, as well as firefighters, sheriff's departments, things like that. So our program is very well known to the Andover School District because it is our early learning center. So we do well more than just childcare. We integrate learning at a very young age to give them success results for when they enter primary school. The goal, obviously, if we can get this building to be used for that, is for me to start servicing younger children and bringing in my kids at a younger age, because right now all my kids are 2 to 6. And we have lots of families that luckily they just stick with me and they send their kids elsewhere to a different program until their kids can enter into ours. So we're looking at servicing 12 months to still that 6-year range, just adding some more families to that, which my license holds up to 100. So.
Located at?
3122 East US Highway 54, which for most who don't know, we're next door to the propane business, yes.
Okay.
And we survived.
So then this includes an existing property along McCandless, and then is there a additional property to the north and then back to the west again? I'm just...
Correct. What's outlined there in red
Right.
is the subject property.
So then is there a plan to build an additional property then on that?
Not at this time. We included that in there just in case down the road we obviously need to push the building back or redo the property if they do the freeway project. So that's why it was included in tonight's meeting. At this point in time, we don't plan on doing any additions or add-ons to the building itself. We're planning on keeping the structure solely how it is and just redoing the interior to meet my state standards.
But you own both sets of that property?
We do own both, yes.
Okay.
If anything were to be used with the back part of the additional land, it would be just strictly at this point in time playground area, just to meet again what my state regulations are with the adequate size.
So your plan right now is just to repurpose the existing building?
Correct.
To fit your...
Yep. Right now, we're kind of like a little red schoolhouse door. If you go down the street, you'll see us. Both of them have little red houses. We're a family business. So when that business came for sale, I mean, it just seemed to suit what our current needs are and how I, started this business in 2011. So it's a little red schoolhouse, basically.
What about parking then for this?
In terms of adding to, or?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we're going to use the existing parking that's there. I know that there was some talks about us having to modify the gravel that's there and maybe do a paved parking lot, and that's not something that we're opposed to. I will say, just to add on, my own opinion, is obviously we are a small family business and it's a startup. This is taking a huge leap of faith and something that we started that we didn't even know was going to grow to where it is now. So we're not opposed to anything that you guys are obviously suggesting in terms of us fixing or making it look a certain way. We just want to come to some sort of agreement where financially we can do it so now, and then over the years, once we do get proven more so, then we can add to. But I mean, the parking at this point in time, you can utilize the front, and then we have the entire side of the building.
What about fencing or screening with that? It may be there. I looked at it and I just can't remember. With the residents to the north and of course McCandless Street to the east, what's needed?
Well, at this point in time, just my state regulations for that, or we have to have like a 4-foot fence, and it doesn't matter if it's chain link, privacy
Okay.
fence, or any of the sort. My current building, we have that as well, and then on part of the side, we have a privacy fence. So we use both chain link and privacy to kind of screen off the neighbors. So we would do the same. I mean, we may even look into different material just because this is, again, taking that next step to where right now I'm kind of a smaller side. You know, we would definitely want to have more of that commercial look to it. But again, we have to just make sure it's feasible.
Thank you.
And do you plan on any signage for advertising your business out there?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you right now I don't advertise. A lot of my families are word of mouth, so I would hope that would be continuous on how my business is and how great people think of it. But we will add some sort of signage again to meet the city regulations on that or what you guys require.
Okay. And for staff, will this have to go to site planning?
Yes, I was going to add that to Eric's comments. All of these changes would require site plan review.
Okay.
And all of the changes on the interior would require permits and compliance with the building code.
Okay.
So then how many kids would this facility then be able to handle?
At this point in time, what I've sent out as far as kind of a model plan of how I would like my classroom and facility set up, it's going to accommodate up to 85 is what we're looking at. Like I said, my license holds up to 100. Right now, we have 45 families. I have 50 kids a part of my program, but we have more kids just because we offer specialized schedules. We offer part-time schedules for stay-at-home moms. My teachers who work in the district, you know, they'll send their kids still part-time over the summer so they don't lose their learning. So as a whole, we'll have 85 more than likely, and we've already gotten approval from my state surveyors just off the site plan they've seen me develop, and we did that a couple months ago. We just got the approval today for us to go ahead and move forward if you guys move forward, which is kind of your first step and their first step for us to figure out where we go from here.
What are your hours of operation?
I'm 7 to 5:30 Monday through Friday. And I mean, I will say I know the YMCA is directly across the street from us, and I mean, they're 6 to 6. So at this point in time, I don't plan on changing my hours. That's what I've been, and I don't, again, want to steer away from how my families know me. I definitely don't want them to feel like we're purchasing this property to get commercialized or bigger in any sort of way. I definitely think I can keep my values there, so we're going to do the 7 to 5:30, just what normal work hours are for everybody.
You mentioned earlier about a 4-foot fence the state requires.
Yes.
How does that play into where would it be located on your
It would be
property?
to the north side of the structure. So at this point in time, the structure that faces the road, that'll simply be our entrance that we use. My idea was that could be used as parking up front and then also kind of like a drop-off and pickup area. We would do parking all along the east side of the property, and then the entire back half, and then possibly even including the extra lane that's off of McCandless would be used as our play area.
Okay. Now, there are two entrances into the property?
Yes.
As it is right now?
Correct,
Okay.
and that'll remain the same.
Okay.
Nothing further from me.
I don't.
No more
Gary?
questions? No?
No?
I'm good.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well presented.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to ask, are there any public members for comment? Okay. Have there been any written communications been received?
No, there haven't.
Okay. And I don't think there'll be any additional applicant information. All right, then. We're going to, hearing no further public comments, I hereby close the public portion of the hearing. There will be no further public comments unless the commission wishes to ask questions to clarify information. The Planning Commission will now deliberate the request. There are 14 factors which the commission must consider in order to make findings and ultimately a recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, I can read those factors and findings.
Thank you.
Staff items. Number 1, do adequate sewage disposal and water supply and all other necessary public facilities, including street access, exist, or can they be provided to serve the uses that would be permitted on the subject property? if the change in zoning were approved. Staff, the subject property is served with public water and sewer. McCandless Doctor, adjacent to the property is a gravel road.
Concur?
Concur.
Concur.
Number 2, if the special use request was approved, would the subject property need to be platted or replatted, or have in lieu of dedications made in order to provide needed rights-of-way, easements, building setback lines, or access control? Staff, the subject property is platted, but does not reflect the future highway corridor right-of-way, access controls, or building setbacks. At a minimum, the future highway corridor building setback should be observed.
Concur.
Concur.
Number 3, if the special use request was approved, would the subject property need a screening plan for existing or potential uses? Staff, screening and buffering required by the Unified Development Manual should be applied.
Concur.
Concur.
Number 4, what fact-based information in support of or in opposition to the requested zoning change has staff received? Staff, none at this time.
Concur.
Number 5, if there has been an error in the application of these zoning regulations to the subject property, would the requested zoning change correct the error? Staff, no errors are known to exist.
Concur.
Concur.
Number 6, how suitable or unsuitable is the subject property for its current use? Staff, the subject property is suitable for its current zoning.
Concur.
Number 7, is the length of time the subject property has been vacant or undeveloped under its current zoning a factor in the special use request? Staff, no.
Concur.
Number 8, how reasonably well-suited will the requested special use of the subject property be with the current zoning of nearby properties? Staff, the proposed use IC compatible with surrounding uses.
Concur.
What does that? Sorry, what does
That's a
that?
typo.
Is. Okay, I just was like, was there an abbreviation that I'm missing?
I read it verbatim.
Okay, thank you.
Number 9, has the special use been requested because conditions in the area of the subject property have changed or are changing? If so, what is the nature and significance of these conditions? Staff, no.
Concur.
Number 10, what are the current land uses, character, and condition of the subject property and the surrounding neighborhood? Staff, the surrounding land uses are widely mixed and proposed for transition to a more uniform commercial mixed residential land use pattern by the US 54/400 corridor study.
Concur.
Number 11, would the proposed special use of the subject property allow land uses which might have detrimental effects on nearby properties? And if so, how? Staff, the proposed use is less intense than most of the permitted uses in the B5 zone and would therefore have less detrimental effects to nearby residential uses.
Concur.
Number 12, how would the requested special use conform with the city's comprehensive plan and other adopted master plans and policies? Staff, the surrounding land uses are widely mixed and proposed for transition to a more uniform commercial mixed residential land use pattern by the US 54/400 corridor study. The proposed use would further the implementation of the plan.
Concur.
Number 13, do any professional persons knowledgeable on conditions that affect this special use request have information or recommendations to provide which would be helpful in its evaluation? Staff, approval with a condition to impose the US 54/400 corridor study building setback to any new construction or building additions, and that the McCandless Doctor be paved to the entrance driveway to the proposed daycare.
Concur.
14, how would the potential loss in value or hardship imposed on the applicant compared to the relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare if there is a change from the current use to the requested use? Staff, the proposed use is not perceived to have any impact to the public health, safety, and welfare.
Concur.
Discussion, comments?
I just had a comment on factor number 13, and that McCandless Drive be paved to the entrance driveway.
Yes, the McCandless Drive adjacent to the subject property is gravel. And we see that if there are 85 or 100 new children here, that means another 170 or more trips a day on McCandless Street on that gravel road.
And would that be at the expense of the property owner?
Correct.
And does that mean that just going from the south to the north, just from the access road to the entrance, or to the end of the property line, or kind of what's proposed?
I would propose at least to the entrance to the property. And
the southernmost entrance there, right when you come in.
Actually, to comply with the highway corridor study, the southernmost entrance will have to be moved to the north, a distance that I'm not sure of.
Okay.
Without some engineering.
Okay.
To meet that highway corridor.
Okay.
And if that's paved, is there a requirement for the type of material? Would there have to be curb and gutter or drainage with?
We would consider it to be a temporary road.
Okay.
And those standards would have to be worked out with city staff.
Okay.
As it sits now, is the red building okay for any setback if you just looked forward? Or I know we're talking about future additions would have to comply, but does that red building sit okay now?
No, it doesn't. It isn't set back adequately. If you look at this exhibit, you can see this line right here.
Mm-hmm.
That is the most recent acquisition of right-of-way for the freeway corridor. So if you were to extend that line onto the east, you can see that it would about cut that building in half.
Sure. Okay.
More than that, it looks like about 7/8.
So that's why we don't want to see any further encroachments into that highway corridor.
Right.
And then, are you aware of that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Aware of, that we have to, are you saying we have to pave that?
No, the setback. In case the freeway goes through there, you're probably going to lose the majority of that building.
That is the part of the reason why we purchased the property behind it on.
To the north.
On South McKinney, so that way we could.
But we would be compensated, right?
That's not up to us.
One thing that I will just kind of add, only because we've lived out here for so long, is I know there's obviously the talks of the freeway, which I'm not opposed, and we obviously are aware of that. But I will say, being out here since 2003, and being located where we are, residentially, which is right across from the municipal airport, I mean, that talk has been out in that neighborhood for the good past 16 years as well. So it's not to obviously downplay that idea. I just don't think that's going to be nearly as recent as what everyone thinks it would be, just because we've been hearing the same thing for 16 years over where we're located with that part of the highway, so.
Sure.
I'm just trying to see K96 get finished, so.
Les, any ideas on that? Any talk?
It's still in the state's plan for somewhere in the neighborhood of 2029.
Okay.
The area we're talking about here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
So they got at least 10 years.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion?
No.
Mr. Chairman, let's see, having considered the evidence at the hearing and the factors to evaluate the application, I, Gary Israel, move that we recommend to the governing body that case number SU-2019-02 be approved to allow a child care facility in the B5 Highway Corridor Mixed-Use Business District on property generally located at 1216 East Highway 54, Andover, Kansas, and 106 South McCandless Drive, Andover, Kansas, based on the following factors of 8, 10, 11, 12, and 14 of the Planning Commission as recorded in the summary of this hearing, and that the following conditions of number 2, 3, and 13 be attached to this recommendation.
I have a motion by Gary Israel.
I, Brian Davidson, will second.
And we have a second on the motion. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Good luck. Yeah. This case will be forwarded to the governing body with the Planning Commission's recommendation and a written summary of the hearing for consideration at their regular meeting of July 9th, 2019. The recording of this hearing will be retained for at least 60 days after the final determination is completed on this case. Protest petitions against the case, but not directed at the Commission's recommendations as such, may be received by the City Clerk for 14 days after tonight, July 3rd, 2019 at 4:30 p.m. If there are properly signed protest petitions with accurate legal descriptions from the owners of record of 20% or more of the total real property owners within the official area of notification, both inside and outside of the city, and not counting public street rights-of-way or specific statutorial excluded property, then such a change shall not be passed except by a 3/4 vote of all members of the City Council. Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Yeah. That was one well-behaved young lady.
All right, let's move along, gentlemen.
All right.
Item number 7, case number VA 2019-01. Public hearing and recommendation on petition for vacation of a portion of the platted front yard utility easement located within the Marketplace Commercial Second Edition, Final Planned Unit Development Plan, and the Marketplace Commercial Third Edition, Final Planned Unit Development Plan, Andover, Kansas. The applicant has obtained the support of the utility providers based on actual survey of existing facilities. Les, any comments?
I'm going to defer to Brian Lindeback here representing the applicant on this. There are a lot of details to this request, and a lot of coordination has gone on with the utility companies.
Okay.
Good evening, Brian Lindeback, 411 North Webb Road, MKC Engineering, on behalf of the owners and applicant. About a year ago, you might have seen the construction of the bank that sits there, and the Ameritrust. There's a need to put a sign out in front of the property, and when they went to go put the sign in the ground, they discovered a lot of utilities that were not located in their proper location within utility easements. Those utilities were primarily fiber optic lines and coax cable of those sort of things. Westar, as I understand, with our survey, confirmed that they weren't encroaching into any easements or outside of any easements. So that said, it's taken about a year, believe it or not, to get to this point where the utilities have had ample time to get moved out of the way, and AT&T has worked really diligently to get that done, and so the whole purpose of this is to allow signage between what you would see as the sidewalk there and a utility corridor. When we platted the property originally, we had that in mind, that you would have an area that is exempt from utilities, and so that when you put in landscaping, you don't have to worry about, or signage, you wouldn't have to worry about them ripping up the, being co-located together. So that's a little bit of the backstory, and in this process, we determined there are some other utilities, so we're going to go ahead and dedicate some easement over some existing utilities that just were kind of nuanced sort of things. So as part of this, taking it to council, I'll have a new utility easement that'll dedicate certain areas that'll cover those utilities with easement. But the main reason is again just to widen this by 2 feet to get the space for the tenant signs that are along that corridor. With that, I'll stand for any questions. Hopefully you'll see a new Mayor Trust sign if this goes well here tonight and at council.
Okay.
So it's a 2-foot wide easement and that is essentially stretching through most of the vacant properties then?
Yeah, there's a 25-foot platted easement that we had planned on through that corridor, and we utilized most of that for sewer and other utilities through there. But it was determined that they need, instead of 10 foot through there, they needed 12 foot to get the footings for the signs and everything in there to be clear of the easement. So that's kind of the reason for the magical 2 feet.
Okay.
So the sign will actually just sit on that 2-foot wide easement?
No, it'll sit in the space between what you see as a sidewalk there, and it'll be basically that first 12 feet beyond the sidewalk.
Okay.
In this case, to the north of the sidewalk.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so between those two?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so we've allowed for certain corridors that bisect, that connect the two properties north to south. So that's kind of the story there.
What is the difference on lot number 7?
There are some utilities in there, and we had to make a choice just what minimal area we vacated to allow for a sign on that. So that lot will have limited sign potential along that frontage, just due to the existing utilities that are out there.
That'll be restricted to the dark area there?
That's right.
The cube?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just glad not to be checking in on this every 3 to so months because it's been a long process of waiting and watching.
Okay.
No.
Further questions?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
Les, any comments after that?
No, our only condition we would request is that the vacation be conditioned on the dedication of the additional easements as shown.
Getting that, Gary?
I was trying to, based on, not that I have to make a motion, right? So what was that list, based on the additional?
The additional easement dedication as shown.
So that the vacation be conditioned on the additional easements shown. Is that what you said, Les?
Yes.
Okay.
And the applicant is good with that.
Okay, thank you.
So we're just looking for either an
Motion,
approval or
yeah.
disapproval, and it's not going any Doesn't go to city council or anything?
This goes to the city council for their final action on it,
Okay,
because it deals with a dedication of easements.
okay.
So I'm looking for a motion for approval or disapproval on this.
Mr. Chairman, prior to that, I will disqualify myself, and I, Brian Davidson, will have to abstain.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, then, Mr. Chairman,
Is-
go ahead.
With one abstention here, do we have enough to? Okay. Go ahead, then.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I, Eric Peterson, make a motion that VA-2019-01 be approved, and that the vacation be conditioned on the additional easement shown.
We have a motion to approve. Looking for a second?
I second that motion. I, Alex Zarchin, second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve based on the conditions. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously, 5-0. Four, excuse me.
Four with one.
Thank you. One abstention. Thanks,
Thank you.
Brian. Okay. All right. Item number 8, final plan, unit development plan. Review and accept the Summerlin Addition Final Plan Unit Development Plan, generally located east of North 159th Street East and south of West 21st Street North, Andover, Kansas. Staff and the subdivision committee have reviewed the proposed final PUD and recommend approval. Gentlemen, any questions for City?
Have there been any changes to the plan?
No.
No.
Has the sewer issue been addressed and taken care of?
They're working with the city engineer on the utility plan.
Okay. Nope. Mr. Chairman, I, Gary Israel, make a motion that we accept the Summerlin Addition Final Planned Unit Development Plan, generally located east of North 159th Street East and south of West 21st Street North, Andover, Kansas, as shown in our drawings this evening.
I, Brian Davidson, will second.
We have a motion and a second to accept the Summerlin Addition Final Planned Unit Development Plan. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right. Last item, gentlemen. Number 9, final plat. Review and accept the Central Park replat, final plat, generally located west of South Prairie Creek Road and south of East Central Avenue, Andover, Kansas. Staff and subdivision committee have reviewed the proposed final plat and recommend approval.
Les, how much is of that is underwater today?
That's what I was going to ask, is the,
I think if you took your GPS unit out there and followed those lines, that they are pretty darn accurate today.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I, Gary Israel, make a motion that we accept the Central Park replat, final plat, generally located west of South Prairie Creek Road and south of East Central Avenue, Andover, Kansas.
I have a motion.
I'll make a
Accept.
second. I, Alex Zarchin, will second that motion.
I have a motion and a second to accept the Central Plan replat final plat. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Thank you. All right. Guess we have any member items?
I have none.
It's nice to see Mr. Peterson here with us this evening.
Thank you very much. Glad to be back.
Anything else?
No.
I need a motion to adjourn then.
I, Eric Peterson, will make a motion to adjourn this evening's Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals meeting.
I, Gary Israel, second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn Planning Commission and Board of Zoning Appeals meeting June 18, 2019. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed?